As Camilla walked home, enveloped in the fresh, clean air that only a light rain can leave behind, the city was immersed in the silence of the evening. Darkness had now settled in, and the street lamps cast a soft light, reflected by the puddles still present on the asphalt. The sound of her footsteps echoed softly on the bridge she crossed every evening on her way home, a familiar gesture that always relaxed her. The word home sounded sweeter than ever, and knowing that someone was waiting for her there made the journey even more pleasant. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. Matteo, her partner, would call her at any moment, as he always did when she was a little late than usual. That thought made her smile. It was an affectionate gesture that made her feel protected and loved, but also free. While her thoughts were cradling her, however, something caught her attention. On the bridge, not far away, she saw a figure, a girl leaning on the railing, her gaze fixed on the river below. Camilla was about to pass by, but a feeling, an uncomfortable memory, stopped her. A year had passed since she had found herself in that same position. Then, like that young woman, she too had stared at the dark water of the river, fighting an uneasiness that seemed insurmountable. That desire to let go of everything, to give in to the temptation to disappear, had overwhelmed her like a sudden wave. She had spent hours balanced between life and emptiness before finding the strength to take a step back. Looking at that girl, she felt an unstoppable impulse. With a firm step, but without wanting to scare her, she approached. "Don't do it," she told her in a calm but firm voice. The girl turned around abruptly, her face wet with tears. "What do you want from me? You can't understand," she replied, her voice breaking with emotion. "No one understands me. No one wants me. There's no reason to continue." Camilla didn't let herself be discouraged. She had recognized that pain. "Come," she said, pointing to a nearby bench. "Listen, I won't try to stop you if, after hearing my story, you still want to do what you have in mind. But first, sit down and listen. Just give me a few minutes." The girl reluctantly agreed. Camilla led her to the bench where they sat down, side by side. As soon as they sat down, Camilla's phone rang. It was Matteo, as expected. "Where are you? Are you okay?" he asked with a worried tone. "Yes, I'm fine," she replied, trying to reassure him. "I'm just outside the building. Would you do me a favor? Can you bring me a blanket and some hot tea? I have someone here with me, and I think we're going to need it." "I'll be right there," was Matteo's quick response, without further questions. As they waited, the girl, still shocked, continued to sob softly, her hands covering her face. "What's your name?" Camilla asked softly. "Sophia," the young woman replied, her voice faint. "I'm Camilla," she said. "I want to tell you something, Sophia. It might not change anything for you, but it might make you see things differently." Matteo arrived shortly after with a blanket and a thermos of tea. Without saying a word, he wrapped Camilla and Sophia carefully in the blankets, then smiled briefly and left the two women alone. Camilla poured 2 cups of tea and, after a sip, began to tell her story. "A year ago, I was exactly where you are now. I was standing on that bridge, looking out at the water and thinking that all was lost." Sophia looked at her with incredulous eyes. "Really?" she asked, almost unable to believe that this woman, so composed and confident, could have lived such an experience. Yes, Camilla continued. I had everything you could want, at least on the surface. A job I loved, a caring husband, a stable life. And yet, every day I felt more and more empty. I could no longer find a purpose. It seemed that everything I had worked for had become useless. Sophia looked down, her hands clutching her cup of tea. What happened? She asked, her voice shaking but calmer. My marriage was falling apart, Camilla admitted. I had devoted myself so much to work, to goals, that I had neglected everything else, including my relationship with Andrea, my husband. By the time I realized it, it was too late. He felt neglected and eventually told me he couldn't go on any longer. How did you get over it? Sophia asked, her interest now obvious. It wasn't easy, Camilla admitted. There was a moment when I actually thought about giving up. I felt like I had no reason to continue, but one person made me realize that life is made up of difficult moments, sure, but also moments of happiness. He told me that sometimes you just have to wait for things to get better, and so I did. Sophia considered those words for a moment, her face turned to the sky. And Andrea? She finally asked. He's gone, Camilla said calmly. I realized I couldn't hold him back. It wasn't his fault or mine. Sometimes things just don't work out the way we hoped. But that doesn't mean life has to stop. Sophia sipped her tea thoughtful. So what did you do? She asked, now completely engrossed in the story. I started over, Camilla replied with a smile. I left my job for a while, took some time for myself, and slowly I began to understand what I really wanted. It was a long and tiring journey, but I found the strength to keep going. And then, one day, I met Matteo. A faint smile appeared on Sophia's face. Do you think this could happen to me? She asked, a hint of hope in her voice. Absolutely, Camilla replied, squeezing his hand. I don't know when or how, but life always has something beautiful in store for us, even when everything seems dark. Sophia nodded slowly, wiping her tears away with a gentle gesture. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know what I would have done tonight if I hadn't met you. Camilla smiled at her, squeezing her hand again. Tomorrow is a new day, she said softly. The sun will rise, bringing with it new possibilities. You just have to have the courage to wait for them. They sat in silence for a few minutes, the sky slowly lightening on the horizon. The noise of the sleeping city seemed distant, almost unreal. Sophia stood first, her gaze more determined. I'm going home, she said in a stronger voice. You're right. I have to get ready for tomorrow. I can't let this defeat me. Camilla watched her walk away with a feeling of lightness in her heart. She had shared a painful part of her life, but perhaps, in that gesture, she had found a new strength for herself too. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.